Get 5 coffins ready.
Hey everyone, welcome to my guide for Hou Yi. Hou Yi is a hunter that focuses on extreme AoE damage as well as strong CC, with a dollop of high single target damage to boot. Build-wise, Hou Yi sticks to the meta like glue, and there's a bit of flexibility if the best builds allow for it, for some personal preference. In general, however, Hou Yi likes to gravitate towards the meta attack speed items since he has one of the lowest base attack speeds in the game, with no attack speed steroid to speak of. For Relics, you want beads and ages 100% of the time, as Hou Yi lacks any inherent CC immunity and is in big trouble if he ever gets caught, considering his main movement ability gives him limited options once caught. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Hou Yi might sound super bloated on paper with his great area damage and CC as well as high single target damage. But there's a lot more to Hou Yi than meets the eye, both to his benefit and his detriment. Let's start small with his passive. If Hou Yi gets hit with a critical strike, Hou Yi is unable to be hit with another critical strike for 3 seconds. So this passive is very simple, and yeah, there are some matches and entire metas where it just does not matter at all. However, when crit is meta for hunters, Hou Yi immediately perks his head up, because mid to late game, if both hunters have a crit build, Hou Yi literally cannot lose it since he can only be crit once, maybe twice during the trade. So this is an example of something that you keep in mind in the character select screen rather than actively in game, because frankly you yourself can't really play around it. You just keep the passive in mind while playing into a crit meta or a team with characters who focus on crit. That's not to say Hou Yi is invincible in crit metas or against gods who are centered around crit, but it's just something to keep in mind when considering Hou Yi in a given draft. Now I'd like to jump ahead real quick to Hou Yi's second ability. Hou Yi marks one enemy god, this mark being able to be placed on gods you do not have line of sight on. Hou Yi gains true sight of the marked target, meaning that he can see the target on the minimap even if he doesn't have a line of sight, or even if the target is fully stealth like during a Loki or Aokong's first ability. Hou Yi also gains % bonus damage on both his basic attacks and abilities for every 10% missing health on the marked target. So, while Hou Yi's base combos are hard hitting, they can oftentimes 100 to 0 squishy target's health bar if they are marked. Namely by utilizing Hou Yi's first ability. Hou Yi fires an arrow which damages and goes through minions as well as gods. Upon hitting a wall, the arrow will bounce depending on its angle of attack, largely guided by the angle Hou Yi is facing at the wall. The arrow can bounce up to 2 times, the first being amplified by 40% and the second being amplified by an additional 40%, meeting a massive 80% damage bonus. While the first and second bounces can hit minions in jungle camps, they are not affected by the bonus damage. In short, this ability opens up Hou Yi to some incredibly high damaging bounces on jungle camps and enemy gods alike. Here's an example of a few in the duo lane. You'll notice that the bounces between the tier 1 towers are pretty limited other than at the actual tower line, which is fine since you don't want to destroy your positioning just to maybe get a bounce off in laning phase, wasting your main clear ability.
Your right tower is under attack.
Then, between the tier 2 towers, bounces become a lot more accessible, since the lanes begin to thin. And then naturally, the best bounces are in the jungle. When bouncing jungle camps, just keep the minions' movement in mind when lining up a shot, because once the bounces come around, the minions will have moved from their original position since you've aggroed them with the initial shot. When this ability hits an enemy marked with the second ability, whether it's the initial shot or bounce, the target is stunned for 1 second. So this, paired up with the bonus damage from the 2 as well as the additional damage from the bounces, can make Hou Yi's first ability the most damaging non-ultimate ability in the game if you hit all 3 shots. Naturally, you won't get the chance to hit the triple bounces often, or even double bounces for that matter, but hop into a custom match and try to get comfortable with lining up realistic shots, so you're not just standing there trying to line up a shot in the middle of a match. In Hou Yi's third ability, he thrusts himself into the air for up to 2 seconds, landing at a target location of his choosing and creating a large damaging AoE. This ability is able to go over walls, but just keep in mind that the leap distance is really not that great, so you can't go over every single wall in the game with it. Hou Yi is able to dive down early by reactivating this ability. Typically you'll see Hou Yi players mashing the basic attack button to perform this ability as quickly as possible. If an enemy is marked with Hou Yi's second ability, this ability will grant a small knockup on the marked target. It may not seem like much, but this gives Hou Yi a perfect opportunity for aggression and combo starting, basically guaranteeing a ricochet stun with follow-up from basic attacks and of course his ultimate. Hou Yi, after a short windup, begins summoning literal suns down to a massive target location, each sun damaging and slowing any enemies caught in the area at the time of impact. This slow does not stack but does refresh the duration upon each hit. This ability is a big make or break for Hou Yi. It's clearly not a hard ability to hit, however timing it well can be the difference between winning and losing a teamfight, especially around objectives given its insane area of denial. Because when an enemy is hit with most if not all the suns, they'll be near death no matter if they're a tank or a squishy, especially if they have Hou Yi's mark on them. If a marked enemy is struck by the suns, they are slowed by an additional massive 20% for a total of 40%. This is absolutely absurd when teamed with the insane damage bonus on the mark. Just 3 or 4 suns could mean curtains if Hou Yi is in range for a few basic attacks, or God forbid stuns you in the suns for a depressingly high amount of damage. So this ability is a teamfighting monster, but it's also fantastic for finishing off or beginning combos during a 1v1, since you can almost always hit at least one sun to grant a slow, then once they use their movement ability to get away, using your 3 to catch up and get a good ricochet stun since you've already had them slow. Speaking of combos, here's a few with Hou Yi. In terms of leveling order, you want to get your 1 at level 1, your 3 at level 2, and your 2 at level 3. From there you want to max your 1, then your 2, then finally your 3. Some Hou Yi players level the 3 over the 2 for the burst combo, but I personally have never really felt like putting levels into it was worth it. So that's Hou Yi. He's a versatile and rewarding pick as an ADC, as he could be both a tank shredder or a squishy killer at the same time thanks to his mark. And if worst comes to worst, he's still a good CC bot. While his ult combos are fairly easy, his early levels are extremely weak, and he gets crushed by early ganks as well as blink plays by an aggressive enemy duo lane. Not to mention his leap has a painful 16-second cooldown, so stay in the air too long or take too predictable a route and you'll be out on your ass as if you never left at all. That being said though, other than during the early game, Hou Yi is typically easy to do well enough on. But he's also a character that allows you to take him to the max with insane ricochet bounces and aggressive, well-executed, and most of all well-timed combo plays in a 1v1. That's all I have on Hou Yi for now though. If you think I missed anything, please let me know. Thanks for watching.